Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Oracle Wisdom. For those of you joining me for the very first time, my name is Natalie Sadie, and we are going to have a look at what the Oracle cards are telling us about the energy for the week ahead. I am live on both YouTube and High Vibe, so you can catch me anywhere. All right, I hope that everybody had a good week last week. I don't know about for all of you, but it was freaking intense for me. So I'm glad to be in this new energy and moving forward, even though we are in all these retrogrades now. We've got Neptune and Saturn and Mercury. Mercury kicked my ass. I have Mercury retrograde in my birth chart and I'm meant to enjoy it. I never do. And if you are a High Vibe subscriber, you would know on full disclosure last week, I talked about the fact that we're always told we're meant to avoid travel during Mercury retrograde. And yet I find I am always traveling during Mercury retrograde, and even to the point of a last minute trip this week. So, you know, there are rules about how we're meant to do this, and sometimes it doesn't always work that way. All right. So as I've been shuffling, there have been cards that have been jumping out. I'm just going to pull a couple more, but there's a very clear message about relationships that's coming through. So I will show you these cards in 1 second. We've got soulmates, learning, and love that have jumped out already. And we are starting with the ascending life oracle. So soulmates, harmonious partnership, a powerful love, soul family and groups, a bond that helps you grow. So that's card number 1. We're going to look at this as more of a collective in terms of the cards that jumped out. Learning, feeling tested with a situation, searching for knowledge, further education, student, discovering some truth. Then we have the love card, romantic feelings, mutual attraction. Someone has feelings for you, focusing on love. And then the next card that came out was single life, living your best single life, working on yourself, becoming more self-reliant, not settling for a bad match. So, all right, if we look at this in terms of how it's come out, I think clearly there is a focus this week on relationships, and that focus is for us to pay attention to what is going on in our romantic lives. Now, if there is a soulmate connection, I think it's something that we need to focus on, we need to prioritize, we need to dive into that and nurture it as much as we possibly can. With that being said, there are obviously going to be tests that come up around relationships. And with Mercury retrograde, all of the astrologers have been talking about people from our past coming through, especially ex-lovers, ex-partners, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is for you. And so feeling tested with a situation, searching for knowledge, further education, and discovering some truth. I think this is more about realizing what this relationship needs. Maybe it's learning about behaviors that you need to alter. Maybe it's learning more about your person and what they need in order to function in this relationship. There are moments where relationships are tested, and then the decision becomes, do I stay in it or do I walk away? And at different moments in our life, there's always reasoning for both situations. But if there is a soulmate connection, if there is that soul family, soul group tie, you're going to need to work through whatever issues are coming up. And in doing that, it is a matter of understanding who they are, how they function, and how do you come together. And I've had to learn this in my own life where I've had to sit down with people in my life and say, right, how do we find common ground? Because we clearly see these situations or this particular issue differently. And instead of fighting over it and fighting to be right or fighting for them to see something the way that we see it, it's a matter of going, okay, we are coming from two very, very, very different locations. How do we find common ground where we make this work? Do we want to make this work? So I feel like there are going to be conversations this week around understanding each other at a deeper level, having that communication. And I mean, it makes sense. Mercury retrograde, it's about going back. It's about tying up loose ends, dealing with things that haven't been dealt with. So this is that moment to do that. And if you're able to get through that, you're going to come out the other side, hopefully a lot stronger than when you went in. As far as love, like I said, I don't normally do love readings. Like, that is not my focus. I know there are plenty of people online that do love readings. Every single reading that they start, someone's thinking of you, someone's coming back to you. No, for me, it's about what is going on in life. But clearly, there is this energy where we need to focus on our romantic lives. So, as far as the love card and the single life, romantic feelings, mutual attraction, someone has feelings for you, focusing on love. As far as the soulmate connection goes, I think that card is absolutely clear that this is a week where we have to focus on, we've got more jumping out, hang on, where we have to focus on those romantic relationships. If you are single, or if you are in this space where you're like, this isn't working for me. So living your best single life, working on yourself, becoming more self-reliant, not settling for a bad match. So if there is that moment where your relationship is being tested, or maybe an ex is coming back, this is your moment to realize that it's okay to love yourself. It is okay to put yourself first. It is okay to work on yourself and not necessarily make this reading be about a partner necessarily, because I know that often when all of these sorts of cards come up, people go, well, I'm single and I'm not dating anyone and there's no possibility of anyone coming through. First of all, you never know. People always come in when we least expect it. And I know that as a single person for a very long time, when people would say that, I would just laugh and go, ugh, I know you're right, but it's just the most annoying thing to hear. With that being said, it's very, very true. But at the same time, to not settle for something that isn't working and walking away is sometimes the greatest form of love that you can give yourself. Going, this is unhealthy for me. I don't want to be in this position. I don't want to be in this toxic relationship, whether it be they can't communicate, there's an extra person, they won't commit. And I mean, I was in a relationship like that, the abusive relationship that I've referenced many times in previous readings. At the end of it, I just said to him, you're either in or you're out, because what was happening was I was constantly trying to make this relationship work. And there was a moment where I went, I'm the only one trying. He's there and he's taking everything that I'm giving, but he's not giving anything of himself. And I will never forget this. It was the day Steve Irwin died. I had a moment where I went, I have to give him the ultimatum, in or out. And it wasn't a threat of anything. It was just, you're either committed or you're not. And I made the phone call and said, can you be home at this time so we can just have a conversation? If you want to go out after that, do whatever you need to do. And we hung up the phone and I cried because I knew what the answer was. I was sad that it was ending, as messed up as that sounds. And I am filming an interview next week, just slightly off topic, about domestic violence and how people find themselves in those relationships with an incredible woman who specializes in all of that. So that's being filmed next week. It'll drop within a few days after that, just for anyone that's interested. But I hung up that phone knowing that that relationship was about to end. And as I was sitting in the car in my feelings, the very first report of Steve Irwin passing came through. And I remember crying for my loss, and I remember crying for the loss of Steve Irwin, because I think he was nuts, but I think he was a great Australian, and I think he was a human that had a great capacity for love. But in that moment, I chose not to settle for a bad match. I chose to take care of me as opposed to working on something that wasn't working. I chose to be single. And so if that's a space that you find yourself in this week, embrace it. And it's horrible to go through. And I know when you're in the middle of your feelings, it's the worst. And all of my friends can attest to what they have to listen to when I am having a moment of being in my feelings. And I'm eternally grateful. But just don't dismiss this reading because it started off with the soulmate card. There are many ways, or there are many forms that love comes in. And so just know it doesn't just need to be about somebody else. But there is that focus on the soulmate and soul family connections. And can I say, because I've talked about the fact that there's a lot of travel for me while Mercury's retrograde, one of the trips I'm doing is with one of my girlfriends who is part of my soul family. From the moment I met her, it was as if we'd known each other forever. And we are absolutely, we absolutely knew each other, and we bonded right before she moved out of state and went on to incredible things, has gone on to incredible things. So it's about maintaining and nurturing all forms of those relationships. Okay, so the next card that came out is Moon. Listen to your intuition, intense emotions, deception, hidden truth, proceed with caution. So we always know what it is we need to do, even if we're avoiding listening to what it is we're being told. This is a week where you should not shut that down. And there are going to be waves of deep, deep emotions. And you have to really, you have to allow yourself to feel it. And I know it can be exhausting, and going through it is a lot, but the only way you can figure out exactly where you are is to move through those emotions. There may be some truths that come up. I know it says deception and hidden truths, but I think just with all these retrogrades, it's allowing that information that hasn't come through previously to actually come to light. I don't see that as a bad thing. I actually see that as a good thing, because the more information we have, the more we're able to move forward and make the right decisions for ourselves. And so just proceed with caution. I don't think it's that we should be afraid to move this week. I think it's that, especially if you're stuck in your emotions, don't just fly off the handle and throw things out there to, as I would say to my friends when I'm having a meltdown, I'm throwing the grenade. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm done. I'm done with everything. I have been told, and it may be true, that I'm a little dramatic. And that is absolutely true. But there are moments in time where it's appropriate to throw the grenade. There are other moments in time where you need to take a breath and a step back and be able to sort of really look at what's going on. And I feel like this is one of those weeks. And I say this because if you throw the grenade, it's very difficult to wind back. Sometimes where you've thrown it, what's on the other end is not receptive to you apologizing and winding it back. Sometimes it's difficult because to go back and take ownership of our own behavior is incredibly difficult. So just be careful in that way as to not be super reactive. All right, I'm just going to pull two more and then we'll move on. Okay, so deep thinking twice on a decision, preoccupied with one's thoughts, self-reflection, being analytical and logical. So like I said, it's not the week to just throw the grenade. It is a week to look at the information that's coming up. It is a week to go within and really look at what you want, what you would like the outcome to be, what is the best way to proceed. And there are moments where we want to be rash and we want to create something or force a situation to happen, whether it be a conversation or something else. But there are moments where we have to look at why we're doing that, and we have to be honest with ourselves about that. And we need to think about how to proceed to get that response. And maybe after the reflection, it is time to go and throw the grenade and go, you know what, I'm walking away from this situation. But you may also find that there is a better way to deal with it. And maybe it is just sitting and having a conversation and asking the right questions. And maybe the other person will be receptive enough to give you the answers and actually be as open as you are in that conversation. And then that changes the outcome. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe whatever is going on, that situation has to end. And that can be romantic, it can be friendship, it can be family, it can be a work relationship, it can be any of it. But at least if you take a moment to self-reflect, if you take a moment to really think about the outcome that you want and the best way to proceed, when you do it, there won't be any second thoughts. There won't be the question of, did I do the right thing? You will know beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that way it makes it so much easier to move forward. And then the final card that's coming out, and I think we got this card last week, which is the unseen, working behind the scenes, not seeing the full picture, the blessings you don't see, magic happens behind the scenes. So last week I talked about the fact that the universe is always working in our favor. There are always reasons for why things are taking place, and we don't always know. And as someone who's completely impatient and somebody who wants everything when she wants it, if not before I even knew that I wanted it, it can be very difficult to trust that energy. But while all of this is going on, and let's say it is a romantic relationship that is coming to an end, it is happening because there is something else. If there has been disharmony and there needs to be a conversation, and you're going within and you're thinking about why this is happening and how it's happening, the next part of this becomes, you're going through this because you need to have the deeper conversation so that you can get to a deeper relationship. You can get to the next point that you need to get to. So that learning, feeling tested with a relationship, searching for knowledge, further education, and discovering truth, I feel like this is a big part of it. This is why some of these things are coming up this week. And so you need to be open to it. And like I said, if it is a romantic thing and it ends, it's because there is something else or someone else that will come through. And it may not be today or next week, but this is you preparing for that. Because if you're stuck in something that is unhealthy for you, nothing else can come in. And I have long talked about the fact that I had, for a long time, a very difficult relationship with my family, with my mum and my sisters. And now it's a bit, I don't want to say half and half, but there's a sister I'm very close to. There's sisters that we don't speak at all. But what I will say is, when I started realizing my needs and I needed to set boundaries with those relationships, what happened was the most incredible family that I created came in for me. And so that separation from family was difficult because they're meant to be your safety net. They're meant to be your blood. Blood is thicker than water. But that freedom allowed me to step into this different space and find this circle of people that I wouldn't give up for all the gold on this planet. So just know that whatever is going on behind the scenes is for your highest good. Okay, we are moving on to the Sacred Destiny Oracle, Deinse Linn. I'm a huge fan of her decks. So the first card out is Flow. This is a week where we are being asked to go with the flow. We are being asked to step into what the universe is putting in front of us and literally letting the tide take you where it needs to take you. Let me tell you, how I woke up this morning and how my week is now playing out are two very different things. There was something put to me and it was a moment of like, ugh, can I make this work? And the reality is, of course you can. You can always make things work. Do I want to make this work? And you know what? It's a week to say yes. It's a week to say yes to the universe, take the opportunities that present themselves and embrace them and go with the flow. So next card out is Focus. You need to focus on your desires, your wants, your needs. You need to focus on where it is you're going to. And if there is something that is important to you, that is where your energy needs to be. So dial into all of that. And if your relationship is your focus on that. Give it the energy that it needs. If the focus needs to be on you and your self-reflection and your personal growth and all of that, do that this week. Do whatever it is you need to do to get to the next step. Just give it your total and complete focus so that you can have the best possible outcome for you. And then the last card out from here is Action. And to me, this looks stormy, but to me, there's no better energy than a storm. The electricity that comes with a storm is so incredible and so energizing. And I feel like it energizes the entire world. So take the action that you need. But like we said before, just make sure you think about what action you want to take and the action that you are taking before you do it. Okay, and we are going to, this was a special request, this deck, the Rainbow Oracle, Jasmine, Safi. I absolutely adore this deck, and I have so many decks. I haven't seen it in a while. So Anne and I were chatting, and she was like, when can I request a deck? I'm like, right now. So this is how we got here, and every time I pull this card, pull this deck out, I just feel so attached to it all. Okay. Digital warrior, the voice of freedom comes in many forms. Your connection to the divine is your power cord of light. So I've been talking for weeks about the fact that everyone that watches this show is a light worker. They are connected to the universe. And we've been talking for weeks about how to connect and be able to get those messages a little bit deeper. The reality is you are already connected, and that is your power cord. So it's time to remember all of that. And especially in those moments where you really are going within to self-reflect, you're going to get the answers that you need. So you have to listen to them, even if they're not the answers that you want. There have been a few relationships in my life that I have loved being a part of because it's given me something. And there was one in particular, he was who I dated after I came out of the abusive relationship. He lived in a different state, and he had come out of a long-term marriage. I had come out of this horrible situation, and it wasn't good. But you know what? We created a soft space for each other to land. When we were together, it was amazing. And then he would freak out, and there was all this drama. And my friends were watching me going, this is really not good for you. And I kept saying, I know that it's not, but I'm not ready to end this. And they're like, Nat, I don't know. And I said, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And then there was a day where I sat and I did do the deep self-reflection, and I was sitting there and I just went, it's time. It's time to end this. And I sent him a message and I just went, I don't want to do this anymore. And he was like, and that was it. And I remember crying and I was sad for a little while, but I had said to my friends, I know that going back isn't going to change the outcome. I know that this will end, but I need to do it until I'm done and I'm ready. And that was what I did. And this man and I, we are still friends. We don't message each other that frequently, but if there's something big going on, we message each other. If he's in the country and performing, I always have tickets to the show. He will always make a point of coming up and saying hello. Like, there is a friendship and there is a connection. So you sometimes get the answers that you don't want, but it's the answer that you need. And when you listen to it, it serves you later on. Okay, so last card out is resilience. When the world meets you with indifference, you set in motion a better way. So this is about setting things up for you so that everything works for you. This isn't about what is going on within the universe. And if you look at this card, her chakras are lit up. Her third eye, you can see that the crown is completely lit up. You can see the energy flowing out of her. You can see her throat chakra. This is about her raising the energy. This is about you raising the energy. This isn't about having life dictated to you by somebody else or by a situation. This is about you not accepting something that is less than. So whether it be you need that deeper connection with someone, whether you're walking away, like I said, no matter what the relationship is, family, friendship, romantic, whatever it may be, this is about you setting your life up for you. So feel all the feelings, go through the process, reflect, just do not act in a way that is deemed to be flying off the handle. And again, I say that from experience. It's not going to serve you. This is a week where you need to really think about what you're doing. You need to think about the consequences of the actions that you're taking and run with it. And there seems to be a lot of sort of push and pull this week in terms of go with the flow, but focus. The focus needs to be on you and what you need. And going with the flow is taking the opportunities that the universe presents you. If it gives you an opportunity to deepen that relationship and to step into that, do it. If you need to move things around so that you can make this happen, do what is going to serve you, because that is the only thing that is going to serve you in the long run. I hope this reading resonated with some of you, if not all of you. As I always say, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Not every reading is for every person. I think it's going to be a very powerful week for all of us personally. I know that people always hate retrogrades, and some are tougher to navigate than others. And I used to be someone that absolutely hated retrogrades in the past. Now, for me, I don't look forward to them, but I embrace them because I actually enjoy tying up any loose ends that do happen to pop up, because then that allows me to move forward in a much freer way. And I think that that is what this week is going to offer a lot of us. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. I am going to be doing full disclosure with David. I just may need to be doing it remotely because I am getting on a plane tonight. So I will speak to him about that, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you guys still get the show. Of course, that is if you're High Vibe subscribers. And Anne and I are in talks with a bunch of amazing people for Gemini Rising. So we will be dropping names of who's coming on and dates very, very soon. We've all just had a lot going on. And like I said, I'll be filming that interview next week around on the topic of domestic violence, a topic that's very close to my heart, because I think it's incredibly important for people, whether they've been in the situation or not, to have a deeper understanding of how people get there. And I think this will help people that have never been there and hopefully never will go through it, have a deeper understanding so that there is a level of compassion and understanding to help people on the other end and be a support system. And there is another story about some corruption within government agencies in Australia that I am currently working on. So I just need to lock in a filming date, but that will be within the next 7 days as well. So there is a whole lot coming up. Make sure you're following on all the social media channels so that you can be up to date when everything is dropping. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And Anne, thank you as always.